video is brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global brand for men's hygiene and grooming. What Manscaped offer you is essentially the perfect tools and formulas for the 3 odour zones: your body, your balls and your butt. And the guys at Manscaped kindly sent me the Perfect Package 4.0 for me to show you guys myself. The first thing you'll notice when you get your Manscaped parcel is the quality of the packaging, but for me it's what's inside which is really important. And for me personally, I was really impressed by the Ball Preserver and the Ball Reviver. Two things you don't really think about, but it's massively essential for the hygiene of your balls. But of course the main talking point about the Perfect Package 4.0 is the Lawnmower 4.0, Manscaped's 4th generation waterproof electric ball trimmer with advanced skin safe technology, which massively reduces the chances of cuts and nicks when shaving your private area. Basically, think of it like a choa for Mexico at every World Cup. The Lawnmower 4.0 saves your balls, it really does. It also has a super smart charging system with this little docking station. You just put your trimmer in, give it a second, the light will come on, and now your trimmer is charging. It really is as simple as that. And I think that's my favourite thing about the whole product. It's so small, so easy to use, it just makes the whole process of trimming your balls and looking after your male hygiene, it just makes it all so much easier. The people at Manscaped have actually even gone one step further, because now for a limited time you can get all of this plus 2 extra products for free, which includes this travel bag and also a pair of boxer briefs, which again, really comfortable, really recommend. All of this is available using the link in the description down below. Head to manscaped.com and use code AJAnalysis for 20% off your order and free postage, and again, those 2 free gifts. Make sure to use Manscaped in the description down below to get the right tools to save your family jewels. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where we have yet more World Cup content, and this time we have our first tactical preview of the tournament, and that's because we have finally reached the knockout stages, and the first game we're going to talk about is England against Senegal. Now, of course, any international major tournament, but especially a World Cup, this is a big game. This is a very big game for England, and it obviously has that element of jeopardy to it. You lose, you're out, you win, you're through. It really is as simple as that. And just one thing I want to say right at the start of the video is England cannot afford to take this game lightly. I know some of the fans are looking at this and going, well, okay, looking ahead, who are we going to have in the quarterfinals? Southgate and his players cannot afford to do that. Especially from a tactical point of view, England cannot take this game lightly. Senegal are a very decent outfit. They are, of course, reigning champions of Africa, and they carry a massive threat. Of course they do. Now, yes, I get it, they're not the same without Sadio Mane in the team, that does make them less dangerous. However, this is still a very good team that will cause England some problems, which means England have to be set up tactically in the right way. So what I want to do today is look at some of the problems that they might face, and how Southgate and how his coaching staff and how his players can go about facing those issues. When England have the ball back here with Jordan Pickford in goal, I think it is unlikely that Senegal will look to press them. However, if they do look to press, it will most likely be in a 4-4-2 shape. Like this, with the initial attacking midfielder, not sure who that's going to be yet, but I'll come on to that later. Pushing up alongside the striker, to go man for man on the centre-backs. However, I think this is a shape that England should be able to deal with quite easily, because they can use the fullback up against a winger, fullback up against a winger on this side, the 2 centre-backs here, but then if England are willing to push their 2 central midfielders slightly further forward and pin the Senegalese midfielders, then it leaves England with both Pickford and Rice as free options. So between Maguire, Rice, Stones and Pickford, I think England should be able to cope with that press, and therefore as a result I think it is unlikely that it will happen. Now, just on this lineup actually, I realised I haven't addressed it, this is what I think Southgate will go for, mixed with a bit of what I would go for by including Rashford on the left wing. Will he include Rashford? I'm not sure, but I will come on to my reasoning later on in the video. I do think though that Southgate will go with this midfield 3, because I thought that it gave them a real element of control against Wales, but also their work off the ball was really impressive, and I do think that will be important in this game. It gives England an extra bit of protection. We know that Southgate is quite pragmatic and cautious, so I do think this will be his midfield 3. Would I necessarily go with it? I'm not too sure, but as we'll come on to in the video, there are certainly reasons why it can work. But like I said, if Senegal press, I think England can deal with it because of having the extra numbers, having the overload, which means that Senegal probably won't press. However, they still will look to operate with a front 2. And they will essentially defend in what becomes a 4-2-2 shape in quite a narrow system, and the aim will be to try and block England from playing the ball through the middle of the pitch. Now, if England aren't ready to adapt to this, England will have problems, because it will allow Senegal to force the ball one side and then come out and deal with it like this, and make life quite difficult for England, make it difficult for England to progress the ball. So England will need to tweak their shape ever so slightly. And for me, what I would be doing is moving Kyle Walker narrower. Again, I'll come on to why I think Walker will play later on in the video. and build possession with what is now essentially a off-balance 3-2 shape, with Maguire, Stones and Walker playing like this, Declan Rice as the holding midfielder, and then Luke Shaw on the left-hand side. From here, I would then ask Rashford and Saka to both keep the width initially, and then push Bellingham and Jordan Henderson slightly further forward. And there are a few different reasons why this will help England. So initially, one of the reasons that this will help England is because it won't leave their two centre-backs up against a front two, which could typically be a problem. By getting Walker back here, you create the overload, you create the extra number, so in random moments where Senegal do try and press, England have the extra man to deal with that situation. So that is an important thing that England need to do. They need to create this overload. In football, the best way to break teams down and open gaps up is to create overloads everywhere on the pitch. This is one way that England can do it. From here, ball progression is going to be really important for England because it is something that they can struggle with at times. And I think Senegal will probably drop their midfielders, their strikers, I should say, or their forwards, onto Declan Rice and try and stop England progressing the ball down the middle of the pitch. Now, at times, England are going to need to try and overcome that and work the ball through the middle, but there are also ways that they can avoid it. For example, the positioning of Luke Shaw on the left-hand side is important, and I think actually what is really important is that he doesn't push too high too early. Now, that might sound like a slightly strange thing to say, but I actually think at times in this game, he needs to be deeper to break Senegal's mid-block. Because when Harry Maguire has the ball, right, if Luke Shaw pushes too high too early, it's very easy for Senegal to drop their right winger slightly deeper, and you've now taken out Shaw and Rashford as options. Shaw's one bit of movement a few yards further forward takes himself out of the equation as an option, but also Marcus Rashford. So what Shaw needs to do is hold this position in line with Declan Rice a little bit deeper, because it then gives this right-sided midfielder an option, or a decision to make. What does he do when Maguire gets the ball here? So by Shaw being in this position, it just gives the opposition a decision to make. If he goes touch tight to Shaw, then it can open up a gap for someone else. The ball can easily go down the line, and then England can create from there. But if he doesn't go touch tight to Luke Shaw, then someone like Harry Kane is more than capable of getting involved in the situation, getting balls into feet. So what it initially does is it gives Diatta, assuming he will be the right winger, a decision to make on whether or not he is pressing Luke Shaw. So by giving players decisions, there are moments when in a 90-minute match you get things wrong. England need to ask questions of Senegal and see if they can come up with the answers. Shaw's positioning could also be useful to get Rashford the ball into his feet, and what I mean by this is when Maguire is stepping forward with the ball, there will be that temptation for Diatta to go and mark Luke Shaw. Especially if England early on use Luke Shaw quite a lot, there will be that temptation to kind of anticipate that the ball is going to go wide into this area. With someone like Harry Maguire on the ball, this is where Marcus Rashford can now come into the game, with passes through the lines from Maguire into someone like Rashford. And I also think this is where Bellingham is important as well. If Rashford can get the ball in these areas and take his first touch inside, perhaps Bellingham can make a run in behind to drag people out of the way. I think something that is actually quite important in this game is that Bellingham doesn't drop too deep. Because he is so good at football, he has this tendency, particularly for Borussia Dortmund, and it's kind of showing at times for England, to want to just drift about and get on the ball and do everything. He can do everything, he is that good at football, but at times he doesn't need to. And I think in this game, England could do with him holding a slightly higher starting position and getting those combinations with Marcus Rashford going. Because I do think England will be able to find the likes of Rashford, Bellingham, in between the lines with Maguire's passing, as long as Shaw is getting his spacing right, not going too high too early. Down the other side, I would do things a little bit differently with Kyle Walker holding a deeper starting position, but the effect is kind of the same. By playing in a narrower area, you are asking questions of the opposition winger, most likely Ismaila Sarr. And by playing narrow, what it does is it naturally drags this winger narrow, which means a very, very easy method of ball progression is for Kyle Walker to now pass to Bukayo Saka. Now that sounds unbelievably simple. You would not believe the amount that teams don't do this. England, for example, against the States in their second game of the group stage, didn't do this. It's almost a cheat code because it is such an easy method of ball progression that it doesn't seem like it should work. But it is actually so incredibly easy because this winger gets dragged inside by Kyle Walker's movement because they're used to marking their fullback. And when you've got an isolation winger like Bukayo Saka, he's perfect for this job. And it is why I would go with Saka over Foden for this particular position, because I think it allows Saka to kind of stand up the fullback and take him on. I think the Senegalese fullbacks are quite weak defensively. I think Saka could have some real success down this side. The other option for Senegal there is that they drop Sarr a little bit deeper to try and cover with this Saka option. But what this then does is gives Kyle Walker the position and the freedom to step forward with the ball, especially with England having the overload here. The Senegalese strikers can't come and press too much, and that's when you can maybe work the ball into someone like Harry Kane, who we know loves to drop deep, and that's when England can then get runners off the ball and really hurt this Senegal team. If Senegal set up in the shape that they have been using in recent games, England can hurt them. This is just a couple of ways. We've looked at how they can progress the ball down the left-hand side, down the right-hand side, but also how they can exploit the middle of the pitch as well. England can create overloads. Just quickly before we carry on actually and go on to something slightly different, that is very important for England, just on that point, overloads. Yes, we can look at progressing the ball down the left-hand side, down the right-hand side. If England are doing this well, Senegal are going to have to react to that, because they can't let England keep progressing the ball out wide. And that is where England can then open up the middle of the pitch by drawing Senegal onto them in these wider areas, onto the likes of Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, but also Kyle Walker and Bukayo Saka. It opens gaps up in the middle of the pitch, where if you've got Henderson, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, but also Harry Kane dropping deep, again we can now see that England can get themselves a nice little, maybe even a 4 versus 2 here, with Kane, Bellingham, Henderson and Declan Rice on the double pivot of Senegal, with the centre-backs of Senegal not too keen to go and be assertive in the way that they defend. This could be really dangerous for England, especially with a runner like Marcus Rashford, which is exactly why I would have him in the team. Can you get the ball in these areas to Kane on the turn, runners off him? England could very much break down Senegal's 4-2-2-2 system with this tactic. I genuinely do think that this system is how Senegal will set up, so therefore I genuinely do think that if England are sharp and are on it from the start, they can hurt Senegal. However, if this is happening for 30-35 minutes, Senegal will react. They aren't stupid, they've got a good manager, and what they will do is drop Mendy into the midfield. So first of all, it's important that England start well to take advantage of those gaps that are there. But also, once Senegal have adapted, England need to adapt as well. And that is on Gareth Southgate. Yes, the players can notice things in-game. Southgate tactically has to be astute and aware, notice changes that Senegal are making and adapt to it. Me personally, if Senegal do switch to this 4-5-1 shape, then again, I think there's quite a clear system England can use, because what Senegal tend to do when they change to this shape, we saw it against the Netherlands, is drop their wingers really wide and really deep to help out their fullback. They basically don't trust the fullback almost in a 1 versus 1 situation, so they try and 2v1 the wingers. Here's how England can combat that. First of all, again, get Kyle Walker in a slightly narrower position, almost in a back 3 at this point, something that we know he can do well. Then, if Senegal are only playing with 1 striker, you don't really need a double pivot, so Declan Rice can do the job by himself. So the first thing we can see here is that England have a box round the Senegal striker, which is going to make for easy rotations and always a passing option for the player on the ball, which is exactly what England need. From here, I would now be pushing Luke Shaw and Bukayo Saka extremely high and wide. We know that if Senegal switch to this shape, they are taking a more defensive, more cautious approach, so they will drop deeper. This is where you can now get Luke Shaw and Bukayo Saka pushing further up the pitch. And as we've spoken about already, Senegal will try and get 2 players around them, which is going to open up positions for other people in other areas of the pitch. What this does if Luke Shaw is pushing forward is it allows Rashford to come inside a bit closer to Harry Kane, get your 2 midfielders moving higher up the pitch, and now you essentially have a 3-1-4-2. The exact shape that Netherlands used in the second half against Senegal once they had changed shape to this defensive 4-5-1. Netherlands used it to really good effect to hurt Senegal. So again, the first thing that this shape is going to do is allow England to overload the middle of the pitch now. Now that might sound a little bit odd because Senegal actually now have an extra deeper midfielder. However, the issue for Senegal comes from the fact that they don't trust their fullbacks, so they drop their wingers deep. So by creating a 2 versus 1 against Luke Shaw on this side and against Bukayo Saka on this side, yes, England might struggle a bit more out wide, but because they're taking up extra players, it opens up things in the middle. And especially as the fact that Senegal now only have 1 striker, which means Maguire and Walker as the wider centre-backs have all the time in the world to step forward. Now, a couple of things happen when you step forward. One is that the opposition get drawn into errors. They kind of aren't sure when they're meant to press, not sure when they're meant to sit off. This happens to some of the best teams in the world. It happens all the time. If England can take advantage of that, we can see a Senegalese midfielder getting drawn out. Harry Maguire is perfect to kind of exploit that. Finding someone like Jude Bellingham, and now England are in a dangerous position and have combinations. And that is why these wide centre-backs can help England create overloads in the middle of the pitch. We can see Maguire here, Walker here, Rice here, Henderson, Bellingham, Rashford and Kane all playing in pretty central positions. Now, typically, the solution from Senegal for this sort of situation would be to ask their centre-backs to be really aggressive. But because we've moved Rashford inside, almost man for man with the 2 centre-backs, it makes it a lot more difficult for them to do that and much more risky. They might do it and it might work, but let's say England are building the ball this side down the right hand side of the pitch. A pass goes into this area and Diallo goes really aggressive on Kane. It is opening up a lot of space for Marcus Rashford to run into. So I don't think they would look to play in that way. I don't think they would be aggressive. I think they would be a little bit conservative, a little bit standoffish, which is going to give England that domination in the middle of the pitch. And I think England have the quality and the individuals that they can exploit this. Of course, another option in this sort of situation If Senegal are going to sit deeper and deeper and deeper, perhaps as the game goes on, if it's still tight, that is when someone like Phil Foden can then come onto the pitch. We saw his ability in his left half space in the last game against Wales, winning that free kick with some brilliant footwork. This could be the sort of game where he then really comes to life if it gets to this sort of game state. I think what we can see is that there are options for Gareth Southgate. The question is, how is he going to approach it? And quite frankly, we don't have the answer. Like I said, I think this will be his midfield three, and I do think it will be this personnel, this set of players. The question is kind of how he sets them up. If Senegal are going to choose to play in a 4-2-2, essentially when they are off the ball, then England's best method is to go with that off-balance 3-2 at the back, and then the 4, then the 1. That will allow England to hurt Senegal. If Senegal want to sit off in this 4-5-1, then the 3-1-4-2 is the strategy for England to try and break them down. And I think this is important, and it's why we shouldn't focus too much on formation, because formation is so dependent on game state and different things that are happening in-game. We can very easily see both of these things happening during the 90 minutes. There will be stages where Senegal are in more of a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-2, but there will also be situations when one of the players drops a little bit deeper to form that 4-5-1. England have to be reactive and adaptive, but also they need to be on the front foot. England need to start quick, get the ball moving, and keep the width. I always say it, England need to keep the width because it will stretch the Senegalese defence, and that's when you leave gaps. And if you leave gaps against these quality players, the likes of Shaw, Bellingham, Rashford, Kane, Bukayo Saka in the final third, it's going to cause you problems. Especially when you've got Foden who can come on from the bench, Raheem Sterling who can come on from the bench, Jack Grealish. England have a lot of attacking talent, and I think these are a few of the ways that England can exploit Senegal. Will it happen? I'm not sure. Southgate might have a completely different idea, a completely different approach. Senegal might as well. But this is just my tactical preview. This is what I think we could see happening in the game, and how I would approach it if I was Southgate. But now we just have to wait and see what he does. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of some of the tactics that I've spoken about? How do you think Southgate will approach the game? How do you think Senegal will approach the game? And what are your score predictions? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.